The longevity conversation has never been louder. GLP-1s, NAD+, continuous glucose monitors, cold plunges, hormone optimization, and peptides. There's no shortage of options, frameworks, or experts claiming that they have the answers. If you're the kind of person who pays attention to this space, who reads the research, attends the conferences, and tracks the data, you're probably not short on information. In fact, you're drowning in it. So why, despite all of it, do so many thoughtful, motivated people still feel uncertain about what actually matters? Why does the more you learn sometimes make it harder, not easier, to know what to do? The answer might not be that we need better information. It might be that we need better questions. Welcome back to Vital Discourse with Dr. Ben and Dr. Lee. Today we're joined by Jennifer Maanavi, co-founder and CEO of Physique 57, the Barre-based fitness and wellness brand she built from a single New York studio into a global company operating across multiple countries with a digital platform, licensed program, and 20 years of watching what actually produces real outcomes in people's health. Jennifer has been developing a framework for sophisticated audiences navigating the longevity space. One built not around adding more information, but around asking ourselves sharper questions to understand how to achieve optimal outcomes, which is what we all want. Jennifer, welcome. Before we get into the framework, I want to understand the problem that it's solving.
Yes, thank you. And really, thank you so much for having me on the show and giving me a chance to talk with you and your audience. So I have been in the fitness industry for 20 years. I started a female-focused exercise and media company in 2005, and that was a long, long time ago. And just to give you a sense of how long ago that was, people were not drinking green juice. People were not wearing fancy exercise clothes. They were eating sugar. They didn't know really that much about diet and exercise, believe it or not, just 20 years ago. And I have seen my clients all over the world, which I'll talk about, succeed and some not succeed. And what I feel like is that the wellness industry, even though I'm thrilled that it's now into the trillions as far as the market, I feel like there are so many options being presented by the wellness industry now that there's actually decision fatigue, there is analysis paralysis, and it's not necessarily leading anyone to lead a healthier lifestyle for the long term, talking about health span, not just how am I going to feel good tomorrow. And as much as I'm happy that many people around the world are understanding wellness or interested in wellness or curious about wellness, I actually think we're not giving them all the information that they need to make decisions. We're just giving them advertisements, we're giving them theories, but we're not helping them ask the right questions to see what's right for them, for their long-term health outcomes.
So, Jennifer, I'm actually really interested in this angle. You left the finance industry to open a bar studio before the category really even existed. Dr. Ben and I largely left the hospital and ASC model to do surgery in our offices. Both of us walked away from safe institutional paths. What did you see in 2006 that made the leap obvious to you and maybe reckless to anyone else?
Thank you. Yes, I like the word reckless sometimes. And so I grew up in the Northeast, and I went to college in the Northeast. I went to physics school in New York, and I really just followed a very traditional path, wanting to be in finance. And I worked on Wall Street in several large companies for about 11 years. I was at Morgan Stanley for 5 years, and I just figured that I would have that type of traditional lifestyle. But then, when in 1998, I was finishing up business school and I had some extra time. And I thought, I really called friends and said, so what do you do when you have extra time? Like, I didn't even know what to do with extra time. And someone recommended exercise. And I was a dancer growing up, but I had not really successfully transitioned from being a dancer to being like a fan of fitness. And I found that most fitness was not necessarily healthy for your body. It didn't really seem natural to me. And I didn't find a method of exercise that worked with my body. However, with a little bit extra time, I found a bar method, which wasn't called Barre at the time. It was called the Lottie Burke method. But regardless, it was a method that was low impact, high intensity, very safe, focused on strength, mobility, toning and sculpting. And it was just my favorite form of exercise. At the time, I had two parallel lives. I had my finance life, and then I just exercised like 4 or 5 times a week at this one studio. And then something happened, which is what made me make the change. I went to the studio one day, and it was a very low-tech fitness studio, and there was just a piece of paper on the wall that said that the studio was closing. I just couldn't believe it. I was 33, I had a 1-year-old, and I was just devastated because this was really, I didn't have that much time, which is why I mentioned the 1-year-old. I was working 12 hours a day. I had a 1-year-old, and my favorite hobby, which was a healthy hobby, was going away. And I didn't know that many people at the studio at the time, just for, it just wasn't a place where people made too many friendships. However, in that moment, everybody came together and women were crying on the street. It was just a very sad day when we all saw.
Do you know why it went out of business or why it left? Did they give any indication?
Yeah, at the time, no, I didn't know the owner, and she wasn't very visible in the business, so we had no idea why. We asked the receptionist, who we had known for 5 or 6 years.
You just got the rug pulled out from under you.
Just the rug pulled out from under us, and this is before smartphones. I mean, this is before people were like texting each other and on Facebook,
Right,
Facebook communities. We were just together, which is beautiful, in a room, and then also on Madison Avenue. And I saw these women crying. I was devastated. And I just had this epiphany that this could be really my life's work. I had a nice amount of work experience. I had an MBA. I had a severe passion for fitness, not for the reasons that you might think, which I'll explain. But I thought as I walked home from 67th Street to 82nd Street, I thought, if anyone's going to try to keep this company alive, or at least this method and form of exercise alive, I guess it should just be me, because I don't know who else is going to do it, and I think I can do this. So in this walk home, I started thinking about it, and then over the weekend, I thought about it more and more and more, and I decided that if I'm going to make a drastic change in my life, it might be for this reason. And the reason, which I think is really important, it wasn't about being skinny and fitting into my clothes. It was really about the confidence and the self-esteem and just the overall feeling that many women, and I'm sure men too, have when they feel physically strong. When you have good posture.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you said it before, health span is super important, and that you want that confidence in how you feel, but it's given off by how you carry yourself and how you look too. I mean, self-esteem's important.
So important. And at the time, most of my time on Wall Street, and maybe it's changed, I don't know, but there were not as many women in the industry, and you had to be more vocal. You had to actually just feel more confident just to compete in that environment. And I found when I started to exercise, I just felt stronger. And this is a time, your viewers, some might not even remember this, but women wore stockings to work, if you can believe it, high heels, suits, and just being able to walk down that trading floor feeling like my thighs feel sore from my workout last night, and my posture is really great because of that class I took last night. And I'm just so proud of myself for getting through that intense workout. I just could be a better form of myself in this very competitive environment. I was younger, I was female, and I just felt like I needed that edge, which I got from just being stronger from within. And that is what I wanted to bring to more.
Anyone who's ever been in shape knows what it's like to carry yourself in a different way. Especially if you were out of shape before and suddenly started organizing your physical being around workouts, it changes you, and it does change how you view the world and carry yourself. It gives you a confidence that's, I mean, you had confidence from all your training and schooling, but you add to that confidence in your body and posture and how you carry yourself, and it really feels unstoppable,
And how much did your dance background play into your choice of fitness that you ended up pursuing?
It 100% led to this path. And I started dancing at 2, and I don't know why. Dancing wasn't necessarily.
I'm sure it had to do with your parents at 2.
They drove me there, they signed me up,
Yeah.
and I just took to it like in an instant. And I just always remember that I was a dancer. And if my parents had friends over, I would do a dance in the living room. When I was in elementary school, I would bring my boombox and knock on doors and ask different classrooms if I could dance for them. I was a performer dancer. It was unstoppable, to use that word, unstoppable. I just thought that, and I still believe, dance is such a beautiful form of expression, and using your body, whether it's for dance, athletics, musical instruments, using your body to create an art form is just one of the biggest gifts we have as humans with the bodies that we have. And
just so people know who don't necessarily have a 2-year-old at home or a 4-year-old at home that's doing dance, which I do, and Dr. Ben, I'm sure has also his daughter.
My daughter was thrown out of dance class because she wanted to take over, and when we came back, we put her in the dance class for like a couple of hours, and we came back, and the teacher was carrying her around. And the other kids were running around. So we kind of, apparently she was trying to take over stuff, and so it was a mess. But yes, I did try. She's more of a singer.
So the apple doesn't fall far from the tree, does it, Dr. Ben?
Right, exactly.
But ballet is the first thing that's taught, right?
Mm-hmm.
Jennifer, if I'm not mistaken?
Yes, usually those, like the 5 positions, the arm positions, the leg positions, it is the foundation. And sometimes it can not be so exciting for young girls and boys, so they go on to other forms of dance. But my daughter's a ballerina. It is, though, for many years a requirement.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So what's interesting is the kind of the parallels between what Dr. Ben and I do and have done and what you've done. So we moved our surgical procedures out of the hospital so we can control both the clinical and the financial outcomes. You moved fitness out of the big box gym, kind of the same instinct, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so you could own the experience end to end. Was that control kind of a point for you, or did that just come second to something else?
No, I'm so glad you asked that. It was a huge part. So to bring the dancing element, I found that at a gym, and there's many successful gyms, and I'm glad that people go to gyms. So this is nothing meant to be disparaging about gyms, but just for me at the time, in my late 20s in New York City, I found that the classes in gyms were not necessarily the best for your body. And I just, dancers just kind of feel their body a different way. And I would do exercises and think, this is fine for today, but you really can't do this on a daily basis. Like the repetitive action here is probably going to lead to injury over time. And I didn't see myself being a gym goer for like the rest of my life. And also there's some intimidation, between men and women at that age at the gym. So there was a little bit of that. And it just, I went, and it was almost like going to the doctor, no offense, because it's good to go to the doctor, but just felt like I had to do it because I had to do it. And I had a membership to this beautiful Equinox here on the Upper East Side, and I went once in a year. So clearly, Jennifer Maanavi and the gym were not a good partnership.
Wasn't working for you.
Right, just wasn't working for me. So what I really wanted to do, and this is what this studio called the Lottie Burke Method had accomplished, and it had been in the city for 25 years, was created an intimate setting. And even though I was saying before, we weren't necessarily friends, I didn't know everyone's name, but you would walk in and it was mostly women, and it was in a townhouse. on the Upper East Side. And it was just very, even without speaking to other people, you just knew that you were in kind of a warm and comfortable environment. And what I was missing, or what I was predicting that I was going to miss when I saw that it was closing, was one, that safe, low impact, incredibly effective form of exercise, and the ability to see sort of my peers, my fitness peers, in a very comfortable setting. So I set out to create what I really would call it, with an architect and a branding agency, an apartment. Like, I wanted to be like someone invited you over to their house to work out. So we created our first studio, and all of them thereafter, to just almost feel like you're walking into somebody's home. And it has like a
Like
living
an
room.
extended living room.
Exactly. And that's what I wanted. This form of exercise just generally caters to more women than to men. Maybe it's because that the ballet bar is just more appealing to females. But bar pretty much across the world is mostly female. And I just wanted it to be very intimate, but very challenging. So not let's just hang out and sort of exercise. It was let's be together, but let's really do something that's really, really good for our bodies. It's not punishing in any CrossFit way. It's strenuous, and it changes your muscles, and it's just really precise muscle engagement. And we focus on flexibility and mobility, and there's fine music, and the teachers are really high energy. So I wanted to bring fun and music and a real exercise science.
So let's drill down on that a little bit. Let's talk about your framework. So it starts with diagnosis, right? They're trying to figure out what each person's coming to the studio for, and walk us through like how you talk to folks as they come in to figure out what the program's going to look like for them, because it's tailored to a certain extent, right?
Well, I think so. And I want to also mention I have a wonderful co-founder. So when I started Physique 57, I'm not a teacher. I've never taught exercise. I was the business side, and then my co-founder Tanya Becker was the leading teacher at that location, the Lottie Berg method. And we tried actually to buy the Lottie Berg method before it closed, which is when I went to approach the owner, and I had to hide in the bushes because I didn't want anyone to know that I was going to talk to her. So there was this very funny, like 1 month period where I was trying to purchase and keep that method alive. And she was lovely, but she did not want to sell it. She just wanted to retire and perhaps do something later. So Tanya and I started something new, which the Physique 57 was a brand new business that we started about 2 months later. And it is group exercise. So in fact, it's not customized to the individual. It's all group exercise. So we have classes in the morning, at night. It started off on the Upper East Side. Well, actually, it started off in Midtown. I brought the method to 57 between 5th and 6th because I wanted it to be in a location in Manhattan where there was tons of business and very easy for people to get there, because
it's a great area.
Yeah, and I had seen that most of the time fitness was sort of tucked away in neighborhoods, not as easy to get to as it should be. And I just, at the time, this area, it's changed a little bit now, but that area was just prime. And we went into an art gallery building on the 8th floor, and we didn't have any signage. And there was no social media at the time. We just had some names that Tanya remembered from when she taught at the previous studio. And it was really like, I really wanted to bring it to the center of Manhattan and encourage women to try this type of exercise. And this is before boutique fitness was even a category. And actually, we weren't called a bar studio at the time. We were just called a strength training studio. And that's where it all started. And what I found was that people were coming out of this experience the same way I had in my late 20s and early 30s when I adapted to this new form of working out, both like socially, emotionally, physically, and from a psychic standpoint, like all of the outcomes. And these women were seeing dramatic changes in their bodies and were just feeling confident, and they were just happier people. And it made me and my co-founder Tanya just so happy to see what we were doing. We even worked with Adelphi University, the Human Performance Lab, and we did a study to even understand why this form of exercise was so efficient and so effective. And we got some great results back about what we were actually doing with women's bodies. And we started to expand.
I'm a New Yorker in part of my soul. I'm a lot of things. I'm a patchwork. I'm a mutt. But I spent a lot of my life in New York, and it's not easy. My father was a neurosurgeon, and his office was on Park and 35th. And I spent a lot of time in the Upper West Side, Upper East Side, down in Lower Manhattan. It's not easy. I mean, I was a waiter for a while. It's hard to make it in New York. There's a reason that they say if you can make it there, you can make it anywhere. I'm getting this feeling that it was a perfect marriage, you and your partner, because she really knew the space that you loved and wanted to be part of. And more importantly, though, your finance background must have given you a heck of a boost on other folks, because it's terrifying to suddenly open up a place in Manhattan, one of the toughest environments and landscapes to put yourself out there in, and make it work financially. If you don't have, I mean, to your point, we don't know why that other studio closed, but most of it is that they didn't have a solid business plan. And tell us a little bit about how it felt and how your background prepared you, because you were in a very tough landscape.
And how you set yourself apart as not just being the workout place du jour.
Well, thank you. Yes. Looking back, I am thrilled that I made the leap, but sometimes I think, wow, that was a really big risk to do this. And so my co-founder and I did attempt to keep the Lottie Burke method alive, but as I said, it was closing, and it was actually for real estate reasons. And real estate is one of the biggest reasons businesses go under, whether I think that's in New York or anywhere, because you have these very high rents. But we were really intent on bringing this new concept to women all over Manhattan, which is why we chose our first location at 57th between 5th and 6th in the heart of Manhattan at the time. And there was hedge funds and investment banks and creative agencies. Everything was there. And it was a big endeavor, and we didn't have much of a market. I had a great loan from my bank, and I did have a finance background, and Tanya was an expert at the time, still is, in this type of exercise. And it was all about creating an environment that we thought women would enjoy and also find effective and see results. And we already knew ourselves that this form of exercise was so effective, and we knew that there was a market. We just had to figure out how to get there. And we did a lot of different marketing strategies. I mean, one of the first meetings I had was with a branding agency. So the brand was very fashion forward. I hired a fashion PR firm to make fitness cool. I didn't hire one of the firms that just puts everybody in bikinis and puts them on the beach, because in New York, no one has a bikini on the beach.
No,
So
no, that's not the image that's gonna win it there.
No way. So we had a very fashion forward. I really wanted this to be like a fashion brand. And lo and behold, we were very successful with celebrities. Sarah Jessica Parker, Jessica Seinfeld, all started to come pretty much right away. Even when we were still under construction, we still opened while under construction. And Jerry Seinfeld.
Well, that doesn't hurt. Having some big names there
so
behind
great.
you.
And they were so nice. They were lovely. Jerry Seinfeld would sit amongst the construction waiting for his wife to finish class. It was really, really fun. And it was almost like we were co-creating this environment because it was so new. And then we decided to open in the Hamptons a couple months later, and that was very successful. Tribeca was becoming a place where people lived. I mean, this is how long ago we were doing this. And so we opened up in Soho. Then we chose to do DVDs, which was a choice to not just keep building studios, but to bring this method to more people around the country. And so we created DVDs, and that was a big expense, but very, very successful. It's not expensive now to do that, but at the time it was.
Right.
And because of our following that we had we had created, just in a very short period of time of a few years, we sold our DVDs in all 50 states in 30 days. And our website went down back in the day when websites would go down all the time. And we really knew we were onto something. And then with that celebrity following and with the national awareness, I then decided that we should open in California, and that was successful. And then we decided to bring the show on the road globally, and we opened in Dubai in 2013, in Bangkok in 2014, and India in 2017. We opened in Saudi Arabia in 2019, and we had a studio in Manila as well. And so my background and this concept of what's happening in wellness comes from 20 years of helping women feel healthy and successful in 6 different countries and everywhere from Riyadh to Beverly Hills.
Yeah, so talk to us about that for just a second. I mean, what was the thought process behind the cities that you chose globally? That I find them very interesting, actually. Dubai, not so much. I mean, I love Dubai. My wife and I love it. But Riyadh certainly raised my eyebrows. Talk to us about the timing on that and how you chose Riyadh.
Sure. So we started the international expansion at a time when this concept of boutique fitness was getting popular. And because we had many studios, and we had 4 studios in New York and then in Beverly Hills, we had a lot of tourists and people coming through the studio. So people were going back to their countries and their cities and saying, oh, there's a whole wave of boutique fitness happening in America. So the phone started ringing, if you want to say that. So Dubai, actually in 2013, which has a lot to do with the Riyadh expansion, was also very new. We were the second boutique studio to open up in Dubai at the time, and that was a very successful business. We had 2 studios there, and similar to what happened in America, where people come and learn about you, the same thing happens with Dubai and the Middle East. So there were women coming to Dubai and taking Physique 57 classes and wanting to bring them to Riyadh. Now they were interested. I mean, Riyadh interest started almost immediately, like as soon as 2013, but women, there were so many challenges to creating a women's only fitness studio. There is like immense challenges. So we said no, or we all realized it just wasn't going to happen until there were some changes happening in Riyadh in, between 2017, 18, and 19. Women were driving.
Yeah, that was right at the time when they changed a lot of laws for women about driving and being alone. And so that's kind of why I thought the 2018 was interesting.
Yep. So I got a phone call in 2018, and I was actually much more optimistic, more open to the idea because I knew about these changes. And we pursued a business plan with a partner. And all the international studios have partners. It's a license program. And they are all families of clients who have been immersed in the method in America or Dubai, and then went on to start their own studios. So this was a terrific family. And we started the business there, and it was very early. In fact, it was too early. Now, if we went back, I think it'd be more successful. And also the pandemic came, so we were there for about a year and a half, and but we're not there anymore, unfortunately. But it was amazing to spend time there and meet the women, and confirm that women really do want to feel healthier in their bodies. And it's not,
of course they do.
of course they do. Of course they do.
You're right.
And even if, depending on the body type you have, not everyone wants to be a size 2. They just want to feel better. And nutrition is a huge part of it. And so what I have, what I have seen, again, with my own 2 eyes, and fitness, as you know, is open 365 days a year. We opened at 6, we closed at 8. Like, I have been watching these women every single day for 20 years. And also I want to mention, we have an on-demand platform. So we have subscribers to our video platform in 65 plus countries. And we are Zooming still, since the pandemic, all of the classes that we teach in Soho. So I see these physically.
That's fantastic.
Women, but we have women all over the world working out with us every day. And what I can say with a lot of confidence is that lifestyle, I think, is the foundation to a healthy life and to improving lifespan. And these pillars that I want to talk about are that what I've seen happen, and especially since the pandemic.
Well, it's a perfect segue. Can you just tell us? We've told us about the business, and your story is amazing. Tell us about the program itself. Like when somebody comes in, what is your ideas? What are your ideas on fitness, and how have they changed over the last 20 years?
Sure. Now on the Physique 57 side, the business has stayed the same. It is group exercise, and it's a media business that offers these amazing 500 plus videos that clients and subscribers can take anywhere, anytime. The ideas that I have around the wellness industry are outside of Physique 57, and more just this observations that I have seen in the wellness industry. So my background is in the fitness industry, and what I've seen, unfortunately, is that fitness is actually not really a big part of the wellness conversation anymore, because there are more things, and some of them are very good, more aspects of the wellness industry that are sort of crowding out some very basics of health. So nutrition, exercise, community, relationships are the foundation, and they are talked about the least at this point in the wellness industry. And that's the problem that I see. So there's these pillars, and they all work together, but there's like the medical and the diagnostic. So that's important for everyone. You do want to know if there's any, you all would know as doctors, are there any alarm bells going off? And it's a very credible way to catch early disease. So the full body MRI, you want the lab tests. If you think that there is a problem going on physically and in your health, sure, you should do that again to figure out if there's any early signs of disease or huge problems.
Early diagnosis has always been sort of the hallmark of a really advanced medical system, because we know that catching things early can prevent you from going off the rails. So we get that.
Yes, so that's great. And unfortunately, though, and you said exactly what one of the constraints is, it's an advanced medical system. So in most countries, you don't have an advanced medical system. And then even when you do, it's expensive, and not everyone can do it. And in New York and East Coast, West Coast, other parts of the country, yes, you can go do that. But as you know, insurance doesn't cover most of it, from what I understand. It's expensive, so not everyone can do it. And then also, and I would love your opinions on this, sometimes even when people find out that there's a problem, they don't necessarily ask the right questions of themselves to determine if they're going to do anything about it. And I'd love to hear if you've had experience with that.
I'm not a big fan. I'm not a big fan. I don't know about Dr. Lee, but these whole body MRIs and whole body CTs, I'm not a big fan of them per se, mainly because we don't have any normative data on that, right? So when you start to extrapolate beyond your data, you get into trouble. So we don't know what a normal, healthy person, non-smoker, what a tiny little dot in the side of your lung means on a CT scan. We don't have population data on that. You can guess, but there are real risks in going and getting a piece of that. So do you mean if you have no normative data and you just get a random CT and you have a tiny little spot on your lung, should you go in and biopsy it? Should you watch it? What should you do? And so some people, getting these things has a good side and a bad side, and everybody needs to kind of team up with their healthcare professional to kind of make sense of it, not just Dr. Google.
I fall actually on the other side of this. You mentioned appropriately that we don't have normative data. How do we get normative data? We do it, right?
No, I have no problem doing it. No problem doing it.
In the beginning, you might not know what to do with that dot. But over time, once you do these studies for a long enough period of time and you get that data, you know what that dot does and what that dot doesn't do. And to the extent that...
But that's research that needs to be done, not necessarily running out and acting on it, which is what everyone's doing commercially.
Well, the acting on it from the perspective of biopsying it, well, if you don't biopsy it, you don't know what that dot is, and you don't know what that dot means.
But there's a real risk to biopsying, right? I mean,
No, there's no question, but there's also a risk to not biopsying if it actually is something. So everything's a trade-off. Everything's risk-benefit ratio, and I think in the end, if you're living 50 years from now, you would obviously be very thankful that that was done 50 years earlier, because now we do have that data and we know what to do with it.
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. Listen, I'm a big proponent of research. I've done research myself. Getting data is one thing. Having a business model based on just getting as many people into your system and churning them out with a CT scan that they don't really know what to do with, I think is a little bit haphazard. Certainly, if we did normative type CT scans or MRIs and then did research on it, I think we're going to know a lot more. So teaming up with a healthcare professional is probably the right thing to do if you're going to get that, not just a commercial place that sort of says, come get your CT scan, and then you're given it on a disc with no sort of direction on what to do.
Is that what you think actually happens? Because I'm not sure, because I haven't done it.
Yeah, you asked a really good question, Lee, and that is, if a physician went ahead and said, let's biopsy this, then what's the problem? Well, the problem is when you have a lot of non-physicians offering these things as a commercial service, and then they try to get it paid for. And again, this is anecdotal, but it actually happened to my stepdad, who's passed away now. Both my parents have passed on now. But this story was a big deal for us about 20 years ago. He had the full body CT scan because his buddy Ira in Miami told him to get it. He went ahead and he's like, Howard, you got to get yourself a CT scan. They caught something in me. So Howard went out and got it. And he tried to get a biopsy of this tiny little spot that he had. And his surgeon said, well, no, let's get another one in 6 months and then we'll follow it, which is appropriate. So what did Howard do? He said, he told him, look, you don't have any sort of symptoms or anything, so let's just watch it. So he went to a different doctor and told him he had symptoms, so he could get it paid for, because he wanted a biopsy. The problem is when you give people a lot, and so it was Howard's fault, all right? But again, when you have this data just sitting out there, not coming from medical professionals, I think it causes folks to do that kind of thing. And he went down a pretty bad path, and we nearly lost him. But it's just one anecdotal thing. I think to your point, Lee, the bottom line is we do need data on this. Currently, we don't have it. But, getting it done is certainly a fast-track way to get the necessary data out there to analyze eventually. Just be careful doing it.
Yeah, I just don't see the difference between that and an incidental finding on a CT or an MRI done for a different purpose.
Well, yeah, absolutely.
It's really, in the end, it's the same thing.
It's not managed as carefully, I think, when it comes from a commercial source.
No, well, but I don't think where the scan does is really the issue. I think the fact that the doctor told him that, look, we're gonna watch this, we're gonna repeat a scan in 6 months, completely appropriate. Maybe the bigger issue is that he found someone to biopsy it, right? And
100%.
maybe that person that he found to biopsy it was playing off of the financial gain or the pecuniary gain from doing it.
Well, he kind of lied, though, and said that he had symptoms.
Okay, so there you go.
So let's get back to the pillars. I think we've beat up the medical portion. Certainly, it's great to have early diagnosis. What are the other pillars, Jennifer?
And I just want to say on this first pillar, the medical and diagnostic, I think what you two are talking about, is exactly what's happening to a lot of people. And so I'll give you an example. If you and I've done this, I've sat at a table with many very successful business people, and we'll talk about longevity hacks. And a third of them will start with, oh, just get a full body MRI. That's all you need. Just start with that. And then let them decide what's going to happen. So what could end up deciding to happen is you're biopsied and end up in ICU. They're thinking that let's do that instead of do anything else. Let me just put my hands let me put my body in their hands. And they don't know what to do with the information, which is what they should be asking themselves before they go in for those tests. And also, again, it's expensive and the technology is changing all the time. So sometimes they'll wait a year because there's this new machine coming out, and they're really kicking off their wellness journey in this area and ignoring everything else. So that's what I want to bring.
I agree with you 100%.
And it's disappointing, and it's not healthy. So then there's pillar number 2, which is also very useful, but also needs to be managed, which is the pharmaceutical and supplement pillar. And so we have GLP-1s, which are working so well for so many people. And now peptides are very much in the press. And let's also just understand for sure that all of these companies, and you were talking about this, Dr. Ben, all of these companies have chief marketing officers, chief revenue officers, head of commercialization. They all have a reason for being, which is making money. And and you know much more than I do about peptides, but some of them are proven, some not. I think over time we'll get a lot more information. I completely understand and hear that many of them are life-changing. I think we're headed in the right direction, but some people are only using that. So they're doing GLP-1s and not exercising or changing their diet, or they're injecting themselves with this, that, or the other thing. And there's all these letters and numbers and all these peptides, but they're still not making lifestyle changes. And so what I want to be talking about and have an issue with is Mother Nature is the longest clinical trial we've ever had. Low stress, get your sleep, eat the foods that come out of the dirt and come out of the trees, have a colorful diet, have relationships, sort of the blue zone meets the happiness studies meets good nutrition is the foundation and what needs to happen more than any of these other pillars. And even though we need all of those things, we need MRIs and GLP-1s are working so well for so many people, we've gotten away from the basics of living a long and happy life, having friends, having relationships, having traditions, eating a healthy meal, making sure you're staying as far away as you can from ultra processed foods, and fitness. And that's where I come from. And now fitness is like this little niche in the wellness industry. And it used to just be the wellness industry. And I have been to something called the Global Wellness Summit. And it's a wonderful organization. And I have great respect for it in so many ways. But I will tell you that the Global Wellness Summit, which happens all over the world every year, does not talk about fitness. And they're spending actually a lot of time talking about moisturizer, and beauty falls into wellness. I don't know if we know that.
Fitness is just such a hard sell. I mean, your margins, right? I mean, the margins on selling a little bottle of something versus the margins on having a studio.
Plus, it's hard. People don't want hard; they want instant.
And what I want to say, and I want people to hear, is that the wellness industry is as commercial as anything else. But it can have amazing outcomes if you know what your needs are and what you can do on a routine basis. I love that there are meditation apps, and there are many free meditation apps, and lowering your stress, as you would know, is like a key to living a long and healthy life. So I love that there's some low cost, easy to access meditation options. And I love that meditation has a cool factor. And I know that everything needs to be marketed, so I'm very aware of that. So I love that meditation is becoming more mainstream. People are working out. Most people are not, but people are exercising more than they used to. But still, most people are not exercising at all.
I think you make a great point because, I mean, even with peptides, and by the way, GLP-1s currently are the pathway that I'm not very excited about, where pharmaceutical companies can't patent peptides, right? Naturally occurring peptides. But if they adulterate it slightly, if they change a couple of sequences, they can actually get a patent on it. The problem is, the function is slightly changed, and so are the side effect profiles, which is why you get some pretty intense action, but also intense side effects from these GLP-1s. So the naturally occurring peptides like tesamorelin, ipamorelin, sermorelin, These and the CJC 1295. These things work to help you with your growth hormone naturally, but only if you work out. If you use these peptides and you don't do anything, you just sit there like a lump. You're not going. I always say that everything comes down to actions and consequences, right? So if you eat really well, we call it a Mediterranean diet. You sleep really well. You take care of any problems health-wise you might have, sleep apnea or anything, and then you work out for 2 hours a day, just say, or even an hour a day. You're going to look like in 6 months to a year, you're going to look like a person that has that lifestyle. If you sit there and eat crappy food and inject yourself with whatever you want to inject yourself with and do nothing else, don't eat properly, don't sleep properly, smoke and drink, then in 6 months you're going to look like a person that does that. And so it's just actions and consequences, to your point.
And the concept and the word wellness, and I wanted to say my understanding also of like peptides and GLP-1s is supposed to augment a healthy lifestyle that you're living. It doesn't replace a healthy lifestyle.
Not at all. It only works if it allows your body to respond the way it should respond to a good lifestyle. It doesn't replace any of that stuff.
Well, I think saying what GLP-1s are supposed to do would be different if you ask a physician versus ask the makers of the GLP-1, right? Yeah. So GLP-1 and their progeny are likely here to stay no matter what what we talk about in this podcast. But the important thing that you touched on, Jennifer, is the muscle volume, right? And that muscle volume loss. So how does Barre help guard against that muscle volume loss or build muscle volume back up? And how does that compare to the more high impact forms of exercise?
Yeah, so this third pillar, which is so important, is this healthy lifestyle, and exercise being a huge part of it, and being able to change your body with certain forms of exercise. And I do want to say that there's a big difference between especially how old you are, has a lot to do with what you will find successful. And also there's a big difference as you get older between men and women. So when we even talk about exercise, it's not like a 18-year-old should be doing what a 55-year-old should be doing, and a 60-year-old man doesn't necessarily need to do what a 52-year-old woman is doing. So it starts to get a bit more customized, but generally, if you are on these peptides or not, building muscle, especially as you get older, and especially for women as their bodies change, lean muscle is so important. And so what Barre exercise does, and Pilates does, to a great extent, is it reduces the fat in your body and it increases lean muscle mass. And that, and you all would know, more precisely with the data, it helps with your brain, with brain fog, with memory. It helps with cognition. It helps you stay strong. For women, you'll know the statistics better, but like 30% of women who break a hip are dead in a year. I mean, there's so many reasons for so many people to be exercising. And to your point, low impact, high intensity can manage your cortisol. It's just easier to sustain like zero, like Physique 57 has like zero injury rate. You can't really hurt yourself holding onto a bar and working on your quads. It's very safe. So because it's safe, because it's building muscle, you can do it for a very long time. We have 80-year-old clients, believe it or not, and we have 20-year-old clients. It's the type of exercise that you can do often and really forever, because it works with your body to create all of the outcomes that are going to make you live like a long and happy life. And posture is also a huge part of what Barre, and also.
So it's more of an isometric type of exercise?
Yeah. So we wear socks, actually it's called grippy socks, which are more common now. That we were one of the first studios to sell them. We were the first studio in New York City to sell Lululemon. I mean, that's how long. If you can believe it. I think even celebrities were buying their exercise clothes at Target a long time ago. So yes, we don't even, so like 2 feet are never off the ground. And actually we have And many studios, do this, but we have a few modalities. We have a strength training class, we have a Pilates core class, which is all about the core, and then we have our bar class. And each one is meant to build, like from head to toe, a strong body that does not get hurt and will stay healthy and strong like forever. And really every age can come. And I mean, there are CrossFits and those are fun and people can go running and that's all great. Just you do need to have a relationship with your doctor to understand really what's working for you at what age, especially for women. There's prenatal, there's postnatal, there's premenopause, there's menopause, and there's actually different forms of exercise that are important throughout. And bar seems to be one that you can just keep doing and it just keeps delivering at every stage. But of course, as you get older, you also want to think about grip strength and, for women, heart. And with bar exercise, there's cardio. So it is low impact, high intensity that blends also mobility, flexibility, and cardio. So like when I go to the doctor, they very much say, like, do you run marathons? Like, are you an athlete? So I have the same profile as an athlete, and I've only done bar for 20 years or 25 years at this point. So these forms of exercise are incredibly effective and fun. And even on our on-demand platform, we even have 15-minute videos, 20-minute videos, and we're just trying to get people to move their body. And then obviously nutrition.
So go through a bar class.
Okay.
You walk in. What do you do?
And you go to the center of the room and you bring some heavy weights, or 5 or 8 pound weights, to the center of the room with you. The teacher's in the front and you're in this room with 15, 18, 20 people. And the music starts. And you start with 10 minutes of a warm-up, which is your arm exercises. So biceps, triceps, shoulders, lats. You're working all of your arm muscles in the first 10 minutes. And then you put your weights away. And then you go to the bar. And we do a certain period of time on just your thighs, inner, outer, like everything thigh.
I go to the bar a lot, but I usually are not working on my thighs.
Well, next time,
exercising your arms,
your heels together, and start bending your legs. So it's
a different bar.
Yes,
I'm sorry.
So you're resting on it. You're not holding on to it for dear life. You're resting on it for balance. And just by holding it, you're engaging your core. So you engage your core throughout 80% of the class. So you're holding onto the bar and you're working your thighs. And you are doing this muscle engagement. It's also called muscle fatigue, which for marketing purposes doesn't always sound so exciting, but it is just technically muscle fatigue. And then you stretch for about a minute, and you stretch your thighs for a minute, and then you move on to your glutes. And then you do the same intense focus on your glute. So outer glute, side glute, under, over, everything. So your tushy is being worked very hard for a finite amount of time. And then you stretch your glutes. And then you move on to your abs and you do a very intense ab exercise, and then you stretch. So you're working a muscle group for about 10 minutes and then stretching it for 1 to 2 minutes, and then you move on and you move on and move on. So by the time you are done, there is no muscle that has not been interrogated in some way.
Nice.
And also you're working your postural muscles throughout as well. So your abs and your posture are being worked out the whole time. And it is very much a sculpting exercise. And when we worked with Adelphi's Human Performance Lab, women were losing 3 pounds after 16 classes in a month, losing inches mostly on their thighs. It was the first place.
Not a nutrition thing at this point. It's just the exercise that you were doing.
Yes. So and in the study, we had diet guidelines. It was basically kind of what not to do. Like, don't eat a pint of ice cream, after after exercise. But it was loose nutritional guidance. It was just mostly the exercise. And then we wrote a book, and in the book we have. This is a long time. We wrote a book in 2012 that had diet to go along with the exercise. But in that study, we did not have the diet requirements. It was just sort of don't overdo it in any particular area. And the results were really astounding. And that was in 2010. And clients still talk about these transformations. But of course, you do want to marry that with a very healthy diet, which in some parts of the country, it's hard to come by. I'm lucky,
Sure.
I'm in the Northeast, people, California, Chicago, Miami, there's many places where there's farmers markets, etc. But not every place has healthy food, and and I think there's some relationships I've been reading about between like billboard signs, fast food accessibility, and and obesity. And obesity, like throughout all of this talk about healthy lifestyle, obesity rates are going up. I think in the 70s it was 15%, and now it's like 45%.
Yeah, it's also parallels.
Ultra processed food.
Yeah, it's the chemicals that we put in the food in order to get those fast food places and store food centrally. They have to put massive amounts of preservatives in them, and those are not good for us.
It's terrible. And I'm going to go out on a limb. I mean, there's no study about this at all, but like when someone comes in for their full body MRI, can someone ask them, have you had fast food in the last 6 months? And I think 50% are going to say yes. So like, that's the issue.
You're probably right.
Right. I mean, I'm like,
you're probably right.
Yeah. So like, so my issue is that we are choosing, we're watching TV, or we're looking on Instagram, we're learning about these places you can go to purchase this wellness solution and purchase this and purchase that. And these pills are coming in, and people are going to Korea to buy like a suitcase worth of supplements. Like, okay, like, sure, if you have the
Stop
money,
eating the crappy food.
right? Like, if you have the time and the money to do all that, like, good for you, right? Like, okay. But what I want you to ask yourself is, are you really just generally living a healthy lifestyle? And I'm not only talking about exercise and food. I'm also talking about relationships. And I haven't extensively studied the blue zones, but I've certainly listened to Dan, and I've watched his documentaries, and there's, dancing together with friends and Sunday dinners, and
Sure. Yeah.
there's other things too that reduce stress. And those people in the blue zone are living to their 100. I don't know if you want to live to your, I'm not sure I want to live till I'm 100, but there are other ways.
Well, it depends. I mean, I think you would, to your point, if you could, it's your health span. I don't want to live to be 120 if the last 30 years are going to be on a ventilator. I mean,
Yeah.
what you're hoping for is to maintain what you have as long as you can.
Yeah.
Okay, Jennifer, I was about to ask you, what you provide is very message driven. So you really have to get that message out to people in, an era where there's so much noise, especially centered around the industry that you're targeting in terms of health and wellness and fitness and whatnot. How do you get that message out, and how has that changed over the years, over a 20-year period of time? What is marketing looking like today versus what it looked like when you started 20 years ago?
It was a lot. Well, it's a great question. And it was sort of like a wave, let's say. So when boutique fitness started to get popular, it was fun, and it was it really had great intentions, and I was so happy to be part of it. So being on, I think my co-founder was on the cover of Shape magazine with Kelly Ripa, who's still a great client, and she was a great spokesperson for us, and she just came to class all the time. And so celebrities were a big part of spreading the news. And it was much more at the time also about feeling confident and healthy. And again, not so much bikini with people on the beach. It was very, it was driven towards helping women feel stronger and confident. And then there was the nutrition wave, which I was very happy about. And we even had a workshop on like the evils of sugar. I mean, now that seems like, of course, sugar's evil, but at the time we really had to educate people on sugar.
Yeah. Yeah, they thought it was fat. You needed everything to be fat-free. Now we realize that the sugar is the problem.
And that meant high sugar, right? Fat free.
Yeah.
So we were part of that trend and helpful in that area. And that was also in our book. And so it was, I won't say it was simple, but it was sort of like one at a time. It was like, we're going to talk about fitness, and now we're going to talk about food. And then there was these amazing companies, at least in New York, and I think California was ahead of the game at the time, but these green juices, which I said before, no one was drinking. Like if there was a time 20 years ago, if you walked down the street drinking a green juice, people thought you were like some hippie. And it was crazy. And now everyone's drinking something that's green, whether it's matcha or spinach. And so nutrition became very important. And nutritionists and these books and eating the rainbow, and we would have lots of workshops on that, and fruits and vegetables. And it was, again, sort of simple. And
Did
then,
you bring any of that into your studios?
yeah. I mean,
In
we
other
would
words,
have
did you
workshops.
offer the juices and those kind of things?
We didn't sell it just for in New York, you need permits for everything, and your landlords don't always sign off on everything. So we technically did not sell any of it, but in New York, like on the same block, you could have, buy your juice, work out. You didn't need to really sell it in your studio. It was all available, but we were very much proponents of it, and speaking in podcasts like this or interviews like this about the importance of pairing your exercise regimen with good nutrition. And we had partnerships with nutritionists, so very much spoke about that. And there was Instagram at the time, so you could use that as a channel as well. However, the pandemic came, and a lot of people, for obvious reasons, became much more interested in health. Great. So as I said earlier in this interview, that I'm very happy that wellness has taken off, and it's almost like a household word, which it didn't used to be. It's just that it's gotten so murky, because now I don't really understand how messages are delivered, because there's just so many. I mean, there's red light lamps, and there's creams, and there's a lot of talk about hormones for women, great education. But there's just so much information out there, and I just think that it's making people purchase all of these different items and not quite knowing what to do with them, and not knowing how long they have to do them for. You're just sort of like ingesting these things. I mean, boxes are showing up everywhere. It's like, who knows what's in it?
Yeah.
And it's like wellness just being delivered to your front door, but you paid for it, and someone's entire job is to make sure you bought it. So it's very, very, very commercial. And there isn't like a chief product officer of red peppers, and there's not like a sexy cucumber Instagram ad. And like, maybe there should be. Like, it's just like Mother Nature does not have a...
But that's always been a problem, right? I mean, they've always, large companies have always tried to take something that's natural that you can't patent. GLP-1s are the example that I used, and I'm going to use it again. There are peptides out there that are really important, and they're natural body products. BPC 157 is a product of your gut. And they want to take it, own it, and package it and sell it back to you. But people like you and like us to a certain extent, it's important for us to keep hammering that actual food, whole foods pulled out of the ground within 100 miles of you or harvested 100 miles from you is probably the best thing that you could do to extend your health span, improve and extend your health span.
I know. And it's almost talked about as if like, well, I know I'm supposed to do that, but I also just bought this thing on Instagram. But
well, they want to give you a pill that's like green pepper extract. Eat green peppers. I mean, they want to take it and put it into a pill and sell it to you. Oh, you can't don't go to the grocery store and just buy a bunch of peppers and eat a really good salad. Let me give you a salad extract, or let me have a powder that is the equivalent of eating a salad.
I know.
That's like balance of nature, right? You see those commercials all the time. Like, we take this stuff and we freeze dry and we put it in a pill, and you have to eat,
Right.
You have to pop 27 of them in your mouth a day. And
Yeah, I mean, you take all your pills in the morning and then you're full.
And I think, and I know, especially like right now, like inflation's a big conversation. Cost of living is a big conversation. Food costs, I think, are up like 100-something%. What I have seen is a banana is still like $1.50, or maybe it's $2 now. But a lot of these foods are actually the least expensive thing. You can buy potato chips are now like $9, but an apple is like $1 something. So it's also a very inexpensive way to live your life. And if my suggestion to anyone...
But even the apples, though, Jennifer, they sell them sliced and in a package.
Oh, I know. It's disgusting.
And then They want to package everything.
Or coated with garbage.
Well, that gets me to what I wanted to say is I think if you are going to have a package delivered to you as part of your wellness allocation, like what you're spending on wellness, my biggest suggestion is that you purchase a cutting board. If you have a cutting board in your kitchen, it will invite you to think about what would I be slicing up, and that should be your apple. That should be your cucumber.
That's a great,
And not a plastic cutting board either.
yeah,
Yes,
that's a great way to look at it.
So it's like so when I've had these discussions with groups of people, and it's like, what's your longevity hack? Mine still is a cutting board with some colorful fruits and vegetables. Slice them up, put them in a glass container, throw it in your bag, and eat it all day. And if I was in a yearbook and it was your most likely to, for me, most likely to be eating a hard-boiled egg on the subway, most likely to be eating carrots on the bus, most likely to be eating edamame walking down Fifth Avenue. I mean, it's healthy, and that's just what I do, and it's so easy, and it's so much easier than making some appointment for some doctor to tell me a whole bunch of stuff and that I don't really know. And there's really two things that I also want to say is they prescribe things to you or they tell you what to do, and I always find that they don't tell you how long to do it for. And I know it sounds like you two have children. I have three. Very, very lucky. I have three children. And I don't know if you ever had this conversation when you had babies, but they would say, advice you would get would be just make sure if you do something once, you're willing to do it many times. Like if you're going to warm up the baby's milk, now they're going to be used to having it warm. So you're going to have to do it for the rest of your life. Or if they like to be tucked in a certain way, they'll have trouble sleeping if you don't do it that way. And I feel like that's how you should think about your healthy lifestyle choices. Like if it's something you can do for a long time, then do it. Because these pills and these tests and this thing, are you really going to be able to do that like every single week? Do you really want to take?
Yeah, it's consistency. We say that all the time. It's about consistency. That's what health span is about.
Yeah.
It's not what you can do one time. It's what you can do in a sustained fashion.
Exactly. So you can, we do have access, most places, maybe it's not the healthiest produce, but you can still buy produce for the rest of your life. You can slice it and dice it and cook it healthily for the rest of your life. You can build friendships and take care of people and be taken care of for the rest of your life. You can create these healthy routines for the rest of your life, and that is what is going to provide a healthier lifestyle than purchasing things on Instagram. And I purchase things on Instagram too. I'm not saying you never can. It's just really understanding these foundations, like do all of that, but also lead a healthy lifestyle. And the amount of people that are taking GLP-1s that I meet that don't exercise, and their doctors never even told them to exercise. And then their body looks completely different. They weigh less, but they're not really liking what they're seeing in the mirror. So you have to do strength training if you're on GLP-1s.
You have to. And you have to eat a higher protein diet too, because
right.
it does muscle waste.
Yeah, totally. So I just, again, what I'm sharing is what I've been seeing around the world, that it is good to get these tests if you think you need them. It is great if you want to do peptides, and that's going to augment an already healthy lifestyle. But there are just some basics that cost very little that will make you very healthy and very happy. And you really don't have to do much. You don't have to go very far. You just have to make and we have, thank goodness for ChatGPT right now and Claude. Like you can say, provide me a healthy meal plan for the week, and I need this much protein and this and this and this and this.
Well, even in longevity, it doesn't really matter if you're not healthy. So I think that everything that you're doing is exactly in line with what our research shows us about what makes you healthy. What do you pay attention to now that you're healthy in the longevity space? Like what is your main focus when you're looking at living a longer life, not just a healthier life? Because I think you're there. What in this huge landscape of longevity, what are you paying attention to?
I'm paying attention to food sources. For me and my children, it's very hard to to convince children to eat healthy all the time, but healthy food, a variety of food is important too. So sometimes I actually get into a rut and I'm eating the same thing every day, but a variety of food, a focus on protein, stress management, very, very focused on that as well. And that could even be like 2 minutes of silence in between all the Zoom calls. So I think about stress, very, very focused on sleep. I have the Aura Ring, which I really, really like. So sleep, stress, eating a colorful diet, getting exercise almost every day, varying levels of intensity, but exercise every day. And then also the relationships in my life. And that is, again, encourage everyone to just listen to a podcast or two or watch about the blue zones. Relationships are also very important. And there's the loneliness epidemic they talk about, which, is it worse now than before? I don't know, but just being social, having routines, having random conversations with strangers, maybe at the dry cleaner. That's all, from what I understand or what I've read, also helps with health span. So it's social, it's mental, and physical. And the commerce aspect is like sort of layered on top. And that's what's distressing me, is just how much money is being spent when it doesn't necessarily have to be spent. And obesity rates are going up. The government is doing nothing about it. Fast food restaurants are showing up everywhere. So we hardly have a fighting chance. And there is no spokesperson for this less commercial lifestyle that I'm talking about. And there is no head of healthy lifestyle out there. And I wish there was, but I guess we'll just do it for free. We'll just go out and tell everybody to eat, to buy more, and have a healthy lifestyle.
You found the niche and you found the area that's ripe for disruption, and you disrupted it. So kudos to you.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
So we live in a moment where the longevity industry has become extraordinarily good at packaging answers, protocols, products, interventions, but not very good at helping people evaluate them. And what Jennifer's framework really asks us to do is to consider something simpler, something harder really at the same time, that the most powerful thing a thoughtful person can do isn't find the right answer. It's learn to ask a better question. Jennifer, thank you for helping us think more clearly about one of the most crowded and confusing conversations in health today. We really appreciate your being on the show.
Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.
So if you loved what you saw today, what you heard today, then please consider subscribing to our channel. And of course, share with someone else that you care about, a colleague, a friend. We'd love to have as many people enjoy the content that we're giving as can be here on Vital Discourse.